I never thought I'd save a millionaire from a heart attack until I realized who he truly was. The day began like any other, but little did I know, it would end in chaos. I still remember the deafening silence as I walked through the crowded streets. Everyone around me was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. Just a few blocks away that I was at the park, seated on a bench, deep in thought. My hands trembled as I recalled the message from my mother earlier that morning. "We're running out of time," she had said, her voice strained with worry. My family was facing loss, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Only the cool breeze brushed against my cheek, a reminder of the relentless march of time. Then it happened. A sudden gasp echoed in the distance, slicing through my thoughts. I looked up, heart racing. It felt as if the world had paused. A tall man, impeccably dressed, sauntered past me. His designer suit looked like it cost more than my rent. But that wasn't what caught my attention. It was the way his vibrant blue eyes darted around, shadows of anxiety and desperation gripping his face. Suddenly, he staggered. The bystanders gasped. A woman screamed. My heart raced. I rushed forward, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Panic spread like wildfire. "Stay back!" Someone shouted, but I pushed through, the sounds fading into a dull roar. I reached him just in time. He clutched his chest, a dreadful pallor overtaking his complexion. "Call 911. I shouted as I dropped to my knees. His breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. He felt so fragile beneath my hands. "Please, hold on." I had no idea who he was, but the weight of his life pressed against my shoulders. "Who are you?" he managed to croak. The crowd gasped again. In that moment, I didn't care about who he was. I just wanted him to survive. I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes, but there was something else, too: recognition, confusion. It felt as if I was staring into the depths of a secret I couldn't unravel. Time slowed. I pressed my palms against his chest. "Stay with me," I urged, and just then, silence enveloped us once more. I could feel the weight of every heartbeat, every breath. The noise around us faded into a blur. His eyes locked onto mine, wild and pleading. I wasn't sure if we were strangers or if our lives were destined to intertwine. That a siren wailed in the distance, but it felt so far away. Would it be too late? Would he make it? And as my hands trembled on his chest, reality crashed into me. I realized in that moment he wasn't just a man in a suit, he was someone so much more. A shadowy figure loomed behind the facade, and I was on the cusp of discovering it. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The world snapped back into focus when the paramedics arrived. They pushed me aside gently but firmly, their efficient movements making me realize just how powerless I felt in that moment. I watched helplessly as they took over, a flurry of activity compressing life into a series of beeping machines and terse commands. The man's vibrant blue eyes, replaced by a glaze of unconsciousness, tore at my heart as the paramedics worked diligently to stabilize him. Is he going to be okay? I found myself asking, though I knew the question sounded weak and desperate even to my own ears. I had been a bystander forced into the role of hero, yet now I felt like a fool. The lead paramedic, a woman with kind but tired eyes, glanced up from her work, her expression tinged with sympathy. "It's too early to tell," she replied gently, the undertone of uncertainty in her voice making my stomach twist painfully. As the ambulance doors slammed shut, a whirlwind of frustration and helplessness surged within me. I hadn't even caught the man's name. Who was he? What was he worth? The sheer irony hit me like a slap. I was drowning in my own problems, and here I was, becoming entangled in someone else's crisis. That I turned back to the park, where the crowd began to dissipate, whispering in clusters about the incident they had witnessed. I felt an odd mix of solitude and connection to those around me. We were all witnesses, yet nobody seemed willing to share this burden with me. My phone buzzed with a notification. My heart sank as I saw my mother's name flash across the screen. I couldn't face her now. The weight of my own troubles felt too heavy for me to carry on top of someone else's. That I reluctantly put my phone down. I made my way to the hospital, each step heavy, filled with anxious anticipation. What if he didn't make it? What if the last thing I did was watch him slip away? I kept replaying his eyes, the vulnerability mingling with a flicker of something more profound. It haunted me as I settled into the stark waiting room, my heart a victim of constant unease. The hours stretched painfully. With each minute, I drowned deeper into uncertainty. Other families surrounded me, cocooned in their worlds of fear and hope. I overheard snippets of conversations: a child injured at school, a grandmother admitted for pneumonia, an accident on the highway. I was merely an onlooker to their grief and worry, yet I felt like a part of their unspoken agony, enmeshed in a tapestry of shared vulnerability and uncertainty. Finally, the clock struck 8 p.m., marking the descent of dusk, when the hospital doors swung open, and a doctor stepped into the waiting room. My heart leaped, a strange mix of dread and hope coursing through me. Before the doctor could address the room at large, I stood up. Was it him? The man? My voice betrayed me, cracking under the weight of unvoiced fears. Demar Jansen? The doctor confirmed, his brow furrowing in thought. He's stable for now, but he's in critical condition. We need to monitor him closely. You can see him, but only for a few minutes at most. That I hurried down the sterile hall, trying to steady my breath. The air felt different here, thick with the bitterness of antiseptic and sharp with the quiet desperation of hope. As I stepped into the room, I froze. There he was, small and fragile against the crisp white sheets, tubes snaking out from various points, connecting him to machines that beeped a steady rhythm. That I took a hesitant step closer, noticing the bruises already forming on his skin, evidence of a battle he hadn't chosen but had fought nonetheless. My heart ached. I didn't know him, and yet I felt tethered to him. Demar Jansen, I whispered, not sure he could hear me. You don't know me, but I was there. I was with you. I didn't know why I felt the need to explain, as if my words might somehow bridge the chasm of unknowing between us. As if responding to my plea, his eyelids fluttered open, his blue irises flickered with recognition. You. His voice was a whisper, barely audible, but it resonated through me, electrifying the air around us. You saved me. I didn't know how to answer. My mind raced through a torrent of possibilities. I just did what anyone would do. I managed finally, averting his gaze. I was there. He tried to shake his head, an agonizing expression filling the creases of his forehead. Not anyone. You. His breath was shallow, and I sensed his struggle, a new urgency darkening the room. You have to know something's coming. The room felt colder in that instant. My heart dropped, and I leaned in closer, searching for clarity in his eyes. But just before he could divulge the secret, a loud siren blared just outside the hospital, and a commotion erupted in the corridor. Nurses and doctors rushed past, and my stomach twisted. Stay with me. I cried out, but the brightness in his eyes dimmed. As the chaos of the world surged around us, I grasped his hand tighter. Please. Don't leave me. But the chaos grew louder as the shadows danced before me, and in a harrowing moment, his eyes lost their spark. The doctor burst back in, and I stumbled backward, panic washing over me. I was desperate to hold on to this thread of connection, yet I sensed my worst fears were weaving tighter, threatening the fragile bond we had only just begun to forge, and as the door slammed shut behind me, silence enveloped me once more. The truth hung heavy in the air, a chilling realization: whatever was coming wasn't just a storm in his life. It would pull me deeper into unknown depths, where shadows were only the beginning. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a constant reminder of the stark reality encasing me. I sat in the waiting room, a numbness creeping into my bones, as I replayed the scene in my mind, his blue eyes, vibrant yet flickering, the urgency in his broken words echoing in the silence. He couldn't leave me, not like that. There was something important, something that tethered us in this chaotic web. Hours passed, yet it felt as if time stood still. My heart ached with an unfamiliar sensation, a yearning to dig deeper into the life of a man I knew so little about. Despite the weariness creeping into my body, my thoughts swirled around the one question that pressed against my mind: who was Mr. Jansen? That thought was abruptly interrupted when a small, timid voice broke through the fog of my despair. "Excuse me, are you waiting for someone?" A little girl, no more than 7, stood hesitantly beside me, clutching a stuffed bunny that looked nearly as worn as I felt that I glanced down at her, taken aback by her bravery. Yes, I am. A man. He had an accident," she nodded solemnly, her wide eyes reflecting a kindness and understanding that felt like a balm to my troubled heart. "Luck is sometimes weird, isn't it?" she said, tilting her head thoughtfully. "My mom always says that." I found myself smiling despite the chaos swirling inside, captivated by her innocence, as I nodded in agreement. "Yes, it really is. Sometimes it brings us together." She reached out, gently squeezing my hand with surprisingly strong little fingers. "You helped him, just like my mom helps people." "You're good," she said matter-of-factly, as if the weight of my own struggles didn't exist in her world. Her honesty struck me deep. I felt a flicker of hope that perhaps I was more than just a spectator in this mess, I might actually be a part of something bigger. With a newfound resolve, I asked, "What's your name?" "Ava," she replied, her face brightening. That we exchanged small talk as the minutes turned into hours. She mentioned her pet goldfish, her excitement to see her dad after his long business trip, and how she had once built a fort out of couch cushions. In that moment, the shadows stalking me began to recede, softened by the warmth of innocence and light she exuded, but just as I started to lose myself in her stories, a familiar figure emerged from the chaos of the hospital corridors. A face I recognized yet hardly expected to see: Jordan, the culmination of dread and discomfort. Our eyes locked, and the heaviness settled back into my chest. "Ava, why don't you go find your mom?" I suggested gently, feeling the tension rise with his presence. "Okay. You'll be okay?" she asked, uncertainty lining her voice. That my forced smile didn't hold back the gravity that seeped into my tone. "I will be." She gave my hand a last squeeze before bounding away, leaving me alone once again with the magnitude of the moment. "Why are you here, Jordan?" I asked sharply, crossly aware of the way anxiety clawed at my insides. "That I came to check on you," he replied, his expression stoic, masking whatever storm brewed beneath. "This has been impactful. I didn't expect you to find yourself embroiled in all of this." His reproachful tone fueled my frustration. "It's more than being embroiled, Jordan. A man's life hangs in the balance," and his last words were urgent. I have no idea what they meant, and now there's a real chance I may never know. Jordan's eyes softened slightly, revealing a glimpse of the man I once trusted, the one who taught me that a smile could mask 1,000 fears. "You're not alone in this. Whatever it is, we can figure it out together." I hesitated, caught in a whirlwind of confusion and buried anger, my breaths coming quicker than normal. "You think it's that simple? You don't know what I'm feeling." "The fear, the weight of uncertainty." "Let me help," he interrupted gently, his voice an anchor against my storm. "I know how this feels more than you realize." Before I could respond, a doctor stepped in, interrupting whatever words hung between us. "You can see Mr. Jansen again for a brief moment. He's conscious but still stable." A sense of urgency sparked within me. I pushed past Jordan without a second thought, determined to reconnect with the lifeline I dared to grasp. As I entered the room once more, a rush of apprehension twisted my stomach. What awaited me? Would he have answers? Mr. Jansen turned his head, squinting slightly as if straining to see me clearly. "You're back," he rasped, though his voice sounded stronger, laden with determination. "You should have come sooner." A sense of purpose ignited within me. "You mentioned something was coming." "What do you mean?" The words tumbled out, urgent, fraught with the importance I felt in this unholy hour. He looked over his shoulder as if to check he was still safe, before leaning in, his brow furrowed. The accident wasn't random. It wasn't just an accident. Everything else fell away. Me fears, my worries, all that mattered hung in the air between us, heavy and electric. What do you mean then? His gaze flickered past me, confusion spilling onto his face as he gripped the edge of the bed. No, they're here. Just as I turned around, a sharp intake of breath escaped my lips as I caught sight of figures in black suits making their way into the room. Each face hidden beneath the shadow of a cold demeanor. An overwhelming dread gripped my heart, a new wave of fear crashing over me like an unrelenting tide. Mr. Jansen, the foremost figure said with an icy composure that sent shivers down my spine. It's time to go. Time wavered in that instant, dangling precariously between dread and desperation, and just like that, the abyss opened before me, carrying Mr. Jansen away into the unknown. I stood paralyzed, the silence surrounding me punctuated by the overwhelming realization that whatever darkness lay ahead, it would be our entwined fates that would bring us face to face with the truth. The air in the room thickened with an unspoken tension as the figures in suits advanced. My heart received a frigid terror intertwined with an insatiable curiosity threatening to unravel my composure. The sharp edge of panic sliced through my thoughts. Why were they here? Who were they taking Mr. Jansen away from me? Who are you? I managed to choke out, my voice barely rising above a whisper. I could feel Jordan hovering just behind me, his presence both a comfort and a reminder of the many ways I felt lost. The lead figure, tall and impassive, turned his eyes on me with a dismissive glance. This is not your concern. Step aside, he commanded, a note of finality in his tone that brooked no argument. Then my legs felt like lead, and for a moment, I was frozen in place, my gaze flickering between Mr. Jansen's anxious expression and those ominous figures. But there was something beneath Mr. Jansen's fear that lit a flame of determination within me. He's already been through so much, I pleaded, my voice trembling with urgency. You have to let him go. He needs help. He will receive, the man interjected smoothly, his demeanor impenetrable. But not from you. No. I found my voice rising amidst the chaos, a cry born from instinct and desperation. You can't take him. I won't let you. Jordan stepped closer, his hand resting on my shoulder as if to ground me. Wait, let's not escalate this, he urged gently, although I could feel the tension emanating from him as well. We don't know who they are. Friends of Mr. Jansen's, said a woman stepping forward, her eyes like steel. She spoke with an air of authority that washed over the room, infusing a new layer of surveillance. You should understand this is best for his safety. He's in no condition to speak of his affairs, not right now. I shook my head, every muscle in my body bracing against the gravity of their words. You don't understand. He needs answers. I need answers. You can't just whisk him away without explaining, but that's exactly what we are going to do, the man stated coolly, eyes narrowing. For your own sake, you should forget about him. Refusal surged within me, a wild instinct to fight against the impending loss. No. I shouted, and just as I turned my gaze back to Mr. Jansen, I saw something shift in his face. Listen, he rasped, his voice barely holding together. You have to trust me. Don't get involved. It's the words hung in the air, heavy and pregnant with meaning before he was silenced by the cold grip of the suited figures, prompting immediate resistance from me. I took a step toward him, desperately reaching out. Wait. Please don't take him. But they were swift, moving as one unit, guiding him away. I could see the spark of fear in his eyes as they pushed his bed out of the room. They were leaving him unprotected, vulnerable, and I was powerless to stop them. At that moment, the chaos erupted. A siren wailed in the distance, a mournful sound that echoed the turmoil within me. Just then, a soft, familiar voice broke through my panic, "Hey!" It was Ava, the little girl, charging back into the room, her bright eyes wide and innocent. She stood defiantly in front of the towering figures. You can't take him away. He helped my mom. The contrast between her small figure and their austere demeanor struck me deeply. Suddenly, I could see the flicker of uncertainty pass among Thema momentary lapse in their resolve. "Out of the way, child," the man ordered, but Ava stood firm, her hands planted on her hips. No. "He's important. You can't just take him away. He's not done helping." The words flowed like light in my darkened reality, reigniting the feeble candle of courage still flickering within me. "Ava's right," I shouted, my voice rising once more. "Mr. Jansen is important and you can't just strip him away from his life and the people who care about him." At that, Mr. Jansen's face twisted with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. Was it gratitude or fear? The two suited figures exchanged quick, uncertain glances, and for the briefest moment, I thought they hesitated. "Get out of the way, now." The cold voice returned. But something in his tone cracked for the first time, as if my small rebellion had ignited a chink in the armor. "Stay strong," I shouted at Mr. Jansen, the words spilling out as though I could send him strength through the airwaves. "Well, figure this out. He'll find you." At that, I noticed one of the figures, a younger man in the background, visibly falter, a flicker of doubt flashing in his eyes, but just as hope started to bloom in my chest, I heard a loud crash from down the hallway. The sirens grew louder, blurring the line between reality and chaos. An unexpected burst of nurses and hospital staff rushed past, drawn to the commotion. In that very chaos, I caught sight of a figure cloaked in white scrubs, frantically gesturing toward my direction. The suited figures recoiled, momentarily distracted by the influx of people charging the scene. "We need to go," the woman barked, yet their hesitation lingered. The chaos became a battleground of intent, uncertainty playing rooted in their minds. It was then that I realized, this wasn't over. Not yet. As their resolve faltered, a realization washed over me, a newfound determination emerging from the shadows of fear. "Mr. Jansen," I called desperately, gripping onto the fragmented hope soaring through the dreadful air. "I won't let you disappear, I swear." But the moment felt like a lingering aching pause, the horizon of uncertainty stretching before us. And just as they reeled back, disappearing into the chaos, I caught a glimpse of Mr. Jansen's gaze, a silent promise echoed between us, a vow filled with unspoken understanding. As the door swung shut, the weight of fear washed over me. Something told me this was only the beginning of an unfurling mystery. What just happened?" Jordan's voice broke through, pulling me back. But even as I collapsed into his assured presence, my own thoughts raced wildly. Would I ever uncover the truth behind Mr. Jansen's life, the fate that intertwined our stories, or was I merely a pawn in something far more intricate than I could imagine? The answer danced teasingly on the precipice of revelation, the shadows swirling once more as I realized innocence couldn't shield me from the storm brewing ahead. But one thing remained clear: I was going to fight, with everything I had left, to save Mr. Jansen from whatever darkness was coming for him. The air settled slowly, tension dissipating into confusion as the room gradually returned to its hushed state. Jordan's grip on my shoulder was both comforting and restrictive, anchoring me amidst the fluttering chaos of my thoughts. I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the question of what had just occurred lingering like a dark cloud. As nurses swiftly filled the space, their chatter merging into an indistinct hum, I still fixated on the door through which Mr. Jansen had been taken. "We should get out of here," Jordan urged softly, his eyes darting towards the flurry of activity, yet I could feel his resolve weakening. "No," I replied, my voice firm. "We need to stay. Something isn't right, and I can't just let them take him." I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a fight I hadn't fully understood yet. Ava still lingered near the doorway, her small figure dwarfed by the bustling medical personnel. I knelt beside her, my heart aching at the sight of determination etched across her youthful features. "Thank you for standing up for him, Ava," I said, my voice mixed with admiration and worry. Do you think he's going to be okay?" Ava nodded, her expression earnest but her eyes betraying a hint of uncertainty. "He has to be. He's always been there when my mom needed help. He's important." Her belief ignited another spark within me. If Mr. Jansen had offered Ava's mother hope, what was it that he had truly given to so many others? The question gnawed at me, and I realized I needed to dive deeper into the mystery of this man who'd already unintentionally woven himself into the fabric of my life. In the midst of my thoughts, my phone buzzed sharply in my pocket, pulling my attention away from the luminous innocence of Ava. I fished it out to find a message from an unknown number. The message read, "You need to find out the truth before it's too late. Trust no one." My pulse quickened as the weight of its ominous meaning loomed over me. Who was this, and how did they know about Mr. Jansen? Just as panic threatened to grip my throat, I glanced at Jordan, who was still occupied, called toward a huddle of nurses discussing the sudden ruckus that had erupted mere moments before. I took a deep breath and sent a quick reply, my finger hovering over the screen, uncertainty gnawing at me. Suddenly, Ava tugged at my sleeve. "Can we look for him? He needs us." The urgency in the little girl's eyes reminded me why I was here, why I couldn't let fear dictate my choices. "Yes," I said, the resolve solidifying again like glass hardening under heat. "Let's find Mr. Jansen." Together, we slipped out of the room, navigating through the maze of white walls and bustling figures dressed in scrubs until we reached the corridor that led to the lesser-known areas of the hospital. The faint beeping of monitors and fading echoes of hurried voices accompanied us as we moved, the air sharp with a sense of impending discovery. As we rounded a corner, a figure caught our eye, a nurse standing by a doorway, her brow furrowed in concentration. I approached her cautiously, heart racing and hope flickering. "Excuse me," I began, desperation making my voice tremble. "Have you seen Mr. Jansen?" She looked up, surprise filtering through her features as her gaze flickered to the little girl beside me. "He was moved to a private room for evaluation." She tilted her head, a hint of concern softening her expression. "Are you family?" "No, but I care about him. A lot. Can you please tell us where he is?" I implored, glancing at Ava, who mirrored my anxiety with wide eyes. "I'm not authorized to give that information, please," I interjected, urgency washing over me like an unstoppable tide. "He's in trouble. We're worried for him." At last, the nurse seemed to consider my plea. "All right. Just down this hall and to the right. Room 302. Thank you." I breathed, relief flooding over me as Ava and I hurried on. Once in front of the room, I hesitated. The weight of the universe seemed to rest on this moment, dirts of hope battling against an ocean of uncertainty. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob, the cool metal grounding me. We entered, the flickering fluorescent lights revealing the sterile surroundings. There he was, Mr. Jansen, eyes closed, seemingly limp on the bed, tangled in a sea of sheets and wires. My breath hitched at the sight. Ava let out a small gasp as she hurried to his side, her little hands brushing against his arm. "Mr. Jansen? Can you hear me?" A silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating. I stepped closer, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. "Mr. Jansen, it's me. Please, wake up," but his eyes remained shut, and the faint bleeping of heart monitors felt like a cruel reminder of time running out. A soft knock suddenly interrupted our despair, and the door creaked open to reveal an unexpected face. Dr. Hughes, a kind and familiar presence from the office, wearing worry as a shield of professionalism. Is he? She started, her own voice wavering as she took in the scene. An overwhelming storm battering against the fragile coastline of my heart. I turned to her, desperate for a glimmer of reassurance. "What's happening to him? Is he going to be okay?" Dr. Hughes' gaze flickered to Mr. Jansen's still form, uncertainty crossing her features. "We're doing everything we can. But his condition is more complicated than I anticipated." The words hung between us, like shards of broken glass, littering the air with raw, jagged emotion. "Complicated how?" I pressed, but her gaze was distant, heavy with resignation. "I can't go into specifics. But there are forces at play we haven't fully grasped yet. Just stay close." Before I could respond, a harsh scuffle echoed from the hallway, punctuated by raised voices and the sound of hurried footsteps. Dr. Hughes narrowed her eyes, glancing back toward the door. "Stay here. I'll be right back." With that, she slipped out, leaving Ava and me in the looming uncertainty of Mr. Jansen's stillness. I could feel fear clawing at my insides, wrapping its icy fingers around my heart. What were the forces she spoke of? What threats lurked just beyond the walls of this room? I took a deep breath and turned my attention back to Ava, who's still holding Mr. Jansen's hand, tenderly whispering words of encouragement. "Fight back, Mr. Jansen. We believe in you." As I watched her, a thought struck me with brutal clarity: if a little girl could face this monumental uncertainty with hope, who was I to back down? But just as I began to find my footing, the door swung open with a force that sent a jolt through me. This wasn't over, not yet. What was waiting for us out there? I had no time to guess. Was I ready for the storm that threatened to break loose? In that moment, as shadows grew longer and reality felt shrouded in flickering doubt, one thing became terrifyingly clear: the truth was waiting for me, tangled and intricate just like my heart, filled with the hopes of saving a man whose life had just revealed itself to be more than I ever imagined. The air in the room thickened, suffocating in its stillness, and every second felt like an eternity. Ava's anxious whispers collided with my thoughts, creating a chaotic orchestra of urgency and despair. Mr. Jansen lay so still, and I felt powerless, trapped between the innocent hope of a child and the chilling reality of what could happen if we didn't act soon. That I moved closer, kneeling beside Ava, my hands trembling as I stroked Mr. Jansen's arm. "We won't give up on you," I whispered fiercely, though a part of me felt it was a promise that might go unfulfilled. As we clung to hope, the door burst open again, this time revealing not only Dr. Hughes but also another figure, a tall man in a sharp suit, his expression taut with urgency. With a quick glance to the doctor, he stepped inside as though he owned the space. "Dr. Hughes," he said, cutting through the mental fog like a knife. "We need to talk about the condition of the patient." And he paused, his penetrating gaze falling on me and Ava, and the word privilege flitted like a beast ready to pounce on unsuspecting prey. "Who are you?" I demanded, irritation slicing through the haze of anxiety. Who was this man barging into our moment of need? "I'm Peter Hollis, Mr. Jansen's financial advisor. I'm here to ensure that his affairs aren't jeopardized," he replied curtly, his eyes narrow and calculating. My stomach churned at his words. "You care more about his money than his well-being?" "Let's not make assumptions," he snapped, but I could see past his cool demeanor. This situation rattled even him. Dr. Hughes interjected, her tone sharper than I had ever heard before. "This is not the time, Peter. If you have insights on Mr. Jansen's medical history, now is your chance to share, or else you can wait outside." Taking his cue from her authority, Hollis stepped back slightly, visibly reining in his impatience. "Fine. Just remember, Mr. Jansen's assets are tangled with some delicate matters. The last thing we need is media attention." Ignoring him, I turned back to Ava, who was still entranced by the man lying before us, her tiny fingers wrapped around his hand. "Can you help him, doctor?" she asked when silence grew too heavy. "I'm doing everything I can, Ava," Dr. Hughes replied gently. "We need to stabilize him first, but we must also prepare for the unexpected. He's in a vulnerable state." And her voice trailed off, as though the weight of those unspoken words were too much for her to bear. Time crawled as the tension between professional apprehension and emotional urgency swirled around us. Just then the sound of shouting echoed from the hallway, followed by a loud crash that reverberated through the walls, sending jolts of alarm racing through my veins. "Stay with him!" I shouted, practically shoving Hollis aside as I darted toward the door, adrenaline igniting my senses. Before I could fully comprehend my actions, I was met with chaos. A group of hospital security suddenly filled the corridor, and the frantic voices of nurses milled about, attempting to keep order. My heart raced as I tried to gather snippets of the situation. "Who's in charge here?" one of the guards barked. "Doctor." Hughes appeared at my side, her face pale. "What happened?" "There was a breach on this floor. Someone's trying to get to Mr. Jansen," the guard replied urgently. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Why would anyone want to hurt him? I felt a surge of protectiveness, recalling the bewildering mixture of warmth and resolve he had offered to so many. "Please, we have to go back," I urged, turning toward the room, but Dr. Hughes caught my arm, her eyes filled with a mix of authority and fear. "No, it's too dangerous. If they're here for him, we need to evacuate." Her voice trembled just slightly, breaking my heart all over again. Hollis, despite his earlier authority, seemed to crack under the mounting anxiety. "If they get to him, it won't just be his life at risk. We need security in there." Hope flickered dimly in my chest, but it was rapidly dimming against the sheer gravity of the situation. "We can't leave him," I protested, ready to run back, to fight for Mr. Jansen, to do anything to protect him. Ava pulled on my shirt, her small face marred by worry. "What if he needs us?" "He's our friend, your friend who happens to be a millionaire with powerful enemies," Hollis hissed, his patience clearly fraying. "Enough!" Dr. Hughes snapped, pulling us back into focus. "We have to regroup. They'll get Mr. Jansen to safety, and you," she pointed to Hollis, "make sure you and your people are ready to defend against whatever's coming. It's not just about what's happening now, it's what lies ahead." That I felt my heart twist, wanting to scream in frustration, but there was a small flicker of exhilaration in my chest. This was it. Whatever was waiting on the edges of the hospital was just the beginning. As we burst out into the chaos of the hall and scrambled to gather ourselves, I couldn't shake the weight of Dr. Hughes' words. The truth lay hidden amongst the impending storm, dark and heavy, yet somehow, a sense of purpose ignited deep inside me. What kind of forces were we truly up against? I was about to find out. The chaos in the hallway was a symphony of shouts and confused murmurs, a stark contrast to the sterile quietude of Mr. Jansen's room just moments before. Each echo sent waves of fear and adrenaline coursing through me, urging me to be more than just an observer in this unfolding turmoil. As Dr. Hughes maneuvered through the crowd, her authoritative presence shushed the throng around her, demanding their attention. My instincts screamed for me to follow, to cling to her side as if she were a lifeboat amidst a tempest. But Ava's grip on my shirt tightened, pulling me back to her small, fragile world. "Why are they yelling? What if Mr. Jansen is scared?" she whimpered, her eyes wide with innocence that broke my heart anew. That I knelt beside her, forcing my breath to steady as I framed her face with my hands. "He's brave, Ava. Just like you. He's fighting, and we need to fight too," I encouraged, resting my forehead against hers, sharing a moment of quiet resilience in the midst of chaos. She nodded slowly, though the doubt remained evident. I allowed myself a lukewarm hope. If we could keep our spirits high, perhaps we could face whatever lay ahead. "Let's find out what's happening," I whispered, my voice low and resolute. Together, we pushed through the throng, each step fraught with uncertainty. As we neared the nurse's station, a familiar face emerged from the upheaval. Marissa, a nurse I had come to respect deeply during my time at the hospital. Her eyes were wide with urgency yet contained a glint of something softer, deeper. "Stay close," she instructed, her voice steady amidst the surrounding din. "There's talk of connections being made. People who think they can take advantage of Mr. Jansen's condition." That I felt the weight of those words settle in my chest like a stone. "Connections? What do you mean?" "Rumors. Things I shouldn't be sharing, but we're family in this place, right?" Her gaze darted nervously as if the walls could overhear us. "There are whispers about board members wanting him out of the picture. Instead of helping him, some want to get rid of him. He's a threat to their Dr. Hughes' voice broke through the veil of fear, pulling me from the conversation. "We're moving him. Now." I turned back to Marissa and saw her sincerity falter for just a moment before she nodded in agreement. "It'll clear the way." That we continued, tension tightening our shoulders and hearts. My mind raced at the implications of her words. They painted Mr. Jansen as an obstacle, a target. My protective instincts flared, and I struggled to process my role in all this. What could I possibly do to help him? As we weaved through the chaos, I couldn't shake the mounting sense of foreboding. What had he done that made enemies so eager to capitalize on his fragility? Questions circled like vultures in my mind, ready to prey on everything I thought I knew about him. Ava tugged my hand, pausing in her steps. "He's safe, right? He's our friend." Her simple declaration was a stark reminder that, to her, Mr. Jansen was more than just an acquaintance or a wealthy stranger, he was a personal hero, someone who had brought warmth into our lives. Of course he is, Ava. We won't let anything happen to him, I said, though my own heart quivered under the weight of my words. With each winding turn through the corridors, we could sense the atmosphere thickening, laden with trepidation. The air crackled as our small team of determined people approached the door to Mr. Jansen's room. It stood ajar, a shadow encroaching from within a stillness that screamed of hidden danger. On my count, Dr. Hughes instructed, her voice a sharp command. 3, 2, 1. We pushed the door open, and chaos erupted anew. The room was no longer the sanctuary we had left behind. A figure loomed over Mr. Jansen's frail form, their back silhouetted against the dim light, a shadow wreathed in menace. Get away from him! I shouted, my heart racing as a surge of adrenaline flooded my veins. But as the figure turned, revealing a familiar face, my world tilted dangerously. The man who had emerged from the shadows was someone I never expected to see. A man from my own past, one I thought I had escaped and left behind. James. My breath caught, a tidal wave of emotions crashing over me: fear, anger, betrayal, and a harrowing sense of déjà vu. Why was he here, and how was he connected to this chaos? The unanswered questions echoed in my mind, but the truth could wait. I needed to protect Mr. Jansen, and with every fiber of my being, I was ready to leap into an unknown abyss to save my friend. The moment hung in the air, electrified and still, as James' icy gaze met mine. Instinctively, I stepped forward, positioning myself between him and Mr. Jansen, drawing on every ounce of resolve left in me. His expression was inscrutable, a mask that concealed intentions I feared to fathom. What are you doing here, James? I demanded, struggling to keep my voice steady, fighting back the memories of betrayal that crept like shadows threatening to engulf me again. His lips twisted into a smile that lacked warmth, a cruel parody of friendship. Isn't it obvious? I'm here to help, or perhaps to finish what was started. A chill raced down my spine, and I caught a glimpse of Ava clinging to the doorframe. I wanted to turn and reassure her that this wasn't a fight she had to see, but my focus remained locked on James. I couldn't let him intimidate us again. Leave him alone, I said, my voice now a tight whisper, the threat of anger simmering beneath. Mr. Jansen lay defenseless, seemingly unaware of the storm brewing around him. James took a step forward, almost as if drawn by an unseen force, but Marissa's resolute figure moved like a shield beside me. You need to leave, now. You're not welcome here, she asserted firmly, a hint of authority slicing through the fear that threatened to overwhelm us. Yet, in that moment, something unspoken passed between us, James and me. A clash of past wounds, unhealed and raw. You can't seriously think you're protecting him by keeping me away. The truth is out there, and it'll only take one move for it to unravel, he replied, each word dripping with malice. What truth? I felt the swell of anger rise, juxtaposed with the gnawing sense of vulnerability creeping closer with every heartbeat. I needed answers, but they felt perilously out of reach. Suddenly, another commotion erupted outside the room, voices rising in alarm. What's happening? Someone called. Panic ricocheted throughout the corridor, and I could feel the tension boiling at the edge of chaos once more. Get Mr. Jansen out of here. I shouted to Marissa, though a part of me, nagging and relentless, wanted to confront James directly, wanted to force him to recount every hidden detail had once shared but twisted into a dark conspiracy. Still, Marissa nodded, ushering Ava away. I saw the glimmer of children's faces peering down the hall, other patients, families watching with curious trepidation, and felt my resolve slip. We were all caught in this tide, all vulnerable, all unwitting players in a game far larger than ourselves. In the midst of the upheaval, Mr. Jansen shifted slightly, awareness flickering in his eyes as if had suddenly awakened from a deep slumber. The fear I had for him swelled within. He deserved to know, to choose where he would stand as one threatened by the looming storm that James represented. James stepped back, but not with defeat, rather, he radiated a quiet confidence that felt unsettling. You think you're so noble, don't you? Playing protector, acting like you understand him. You have no idea what you're dealing with, he sneered. The hoots of sirens began to wail faintly. distant yet growing louder. Someone was coming. Thank God, but as those sirens sang closer, the flickering tension ignited into something palpable. James leaned in slightly, the smile leaving his face, replaced by an intensity that sent heat across my skin. Be careful, my friend. Choices shape destinies just as they did before. His words echoed a haunting reminder of the past that I longed to forget, yet couldn't escape. In that moment, I realized there was a deeper connection between all of us, something lurking just beneath the surface, refusing to be unearthed. Before I could respond, the door swung open wider. A group of paramedics surged into the room, bringing both a wave of relief and a new wave of anxiety. They quickly assessed the situation, their professionalism stark against the chaos that had unfolded, and yet, as they began to address Mr. Jansen with urgency, a flicker of something caught my eye, a piece of paper, fluttering to the floor, likely shaken loose in the fray. It carried a familiar emblem from the boardroom, a seal I had come to dread. Before I could bend down to retrieve it, James captured my gaze one last time. Don't let them get to you, he warned, but it was unclear if he meant the paramedics or the looming powers hidden behind the walls. The air thickened, revelation squeezing tighter around my throat as he slipped past the corridor, his silhouette fading into the fray. I was left standing at the threshold, more questions rising than answers, as the paramedics worked to stabilize Mr. Jansen. What is this? I murmured to myself, staring at the paper now crumpled in my hand, all while a profound unease unfurling like a storm cloud in my heart. The sirens blared, and I felt destiny shifting. It wouldn't stop until truth surfaced, for better or for worse. With my resolve hardening like steel, I turned my attention back to Mr. Jansen as he lay there fighting for breath and fight. Hope might flicker dimly now, but it was there, and I would uncover this web before it pulled everyone I cared about into darkness. The chaos in the room began to settle as the paramedics worked with practiced precision, voices melding into a background hum. I gripped the crumpled paper in my hand, my heart racing as I caught glimpses of Mr. Jansen's pale face. Every breath he took seemed like a battle, and I felt an overwhelming urge to do something to help him, to shield him from whatever darkness James had threatened. Stay with us, Mr. Jansen, one of the paramedics urged, monitoring the monitor's beeping rhythm. You're in good hands. With deep breaths, I tried to absorb his words, hoping that they somehow possessed the power to shield Mr. Jansen from the dangers that felt so close. Suddenly, Marissa's sharp voice cut through the thick air, her eyes widening as she approached. What do you have there? She was motioning to the paper, laced with concern. I took a breath, unfolding the crumpled document as if revealing a secret wrapped in shadows. Its surface was smooth, but the emblem, that forbidding seal, sent dread pooling in my stomach. It's a contract. I know it's from the boardroom. My voice was a ragged whisper, the implications fierce in my mind. What if this is proof of everything? Marissa's eyes darkened, the pulse of panic mingling with resolve. Let's keep this away from the paramedics for now. We might need to see it clearly, away from prying eyes. She glanced back, ensuring the chaos remained focused on Mr. Jansen. As the medics continued to work diligently, I felt a flicker of warmth in the uncertainty. People gathered around, their faces compassionate yet laden with worry, some offering soft reassurances, others searching for understanding in the unfolding chaos. In that moment, I saw a glimmer of humanity reflecting back at me, a reminder that kindness persists even amid distress. They wheeled Mr. Jansen onto a gurney, and as they prepped him for transport, I stepped closer, unable to shake the urgency driving my actions. Mr. Jansen, I whispered, nerves threading through my voice like a taut wire. You have to fight. You have to hold on. His eyes flickered open, though they seemed to penetrate through layers of fog. For just a moment, recognition flickered, and I thought I saw fear, followed by something akin to gratitude. Then, just as quickly as the moment came, it dissipated. The medics moved the gurney to the exit, and I watched, hands trembling, feet frozen. Is he going to be all right? I found myself asking one of the paramedics. The tight-lipped response failed to nourish the hope I clung to like a lifeline. Let's focus on getting him stable first, the medic replied, softly but firmly before pushing the gurney into the corridor. As they exited, a surge of dread washed over me. As if sensing my turmoil, Marissa reached for my arm, grounding me. "We need to figure out what that contract really means," she urged, her voice low yet resolute. "James knows something. He's leveraging something against all of us." In the midst of anxiety, an unexpected kindness emerged. A young nurse gently squeezed my shoulder as she walked past. "You did everything you could," she said, and though her words were simple, they felt like a soothing balm amidst the frenzy. "Thank you," I whispered, the warmth of her gesture carrying a fleeting sense of gratitude that momentarily eased my heart. But the trace of fear remained. I could feel the pressure of James' looming presence heavy in the air, his threat coiling tightly around me. I carefully slipped the paper into the inner pocket of my jacket, shielding it while I followed Marissa out into the corridor. The lights flared above, a spotlight illuminating the chaos swirling around us. Voices heightened, conversations tumbled over one another, and the atmosphere felt electric, as though tension awaited a spark to ignite it. "Are you okay?" Marissa asked, her brows drawn in worry as she glanced over me, seeking any signs of a breakdown. "I think so," I replied, though inside, the tempest raged. But what does it mean if that contract is real? What did James mean by his words? Choices shape destinies. The questions tumbled from my lips in a rush, dark realizations knotting deep in my gut that we need to use every ounce of clarity we have, and we need to figure it out before he does. This has implications that go beyond Mr. Jansen," she emphasized, her voice hushed but weighted with urgency. Suddenly, the doors swung open, revealing a tall figure standing just beyond the threshold. The unsettling presence of James materialized, a shadow against the bright hospital lights. As our eyes locked, an icy dread swept through me. "Getting cozy, are we?" he sneered, stepping forward, his expression both mocking and predatory. "Letting emotions cloud your judgment. I thought you were smarter than that." In a heartbeat, everything shifted again. I felt the unmistakable grip of fear strangle my resolve. Remembering the weight of that contract in my pocket, I braced myself, knowing there would be no turning back now. "What do you want, James?" I demanded, my voice tinged with defiance, though uncertainty pulsed beneath. He chuckled softly, delighting in the suspense he cast around us. "Oh, this is just the beginning. The truth is coming, and trust me, it won't be pretty." His cryptic words hung in the air like a storm cloud as he retreated back down the hall, leaving nothing but a sense of impending dread in his wake. Marissa turned to me, her eyes wide with realization. "He knows more than we think. This is about more than just Mr. Jansen, it's about you too." And in that moment, I sensed the weight of every word, every revelation looming around me like a specter. I felt the world tilt on its axis. A revelation was coming like an approaching storm, and I stood on the brink of something profound, trembling under the surface, just waiting to be unearthed. The hours spent in the hospital had begun to feel like a lifetime, each minute stretching on painfully as we navigated the chaos and uncertainty. I was running on adrenaline, looking in every direction for any sign of Mr. Jansen, lost in the world of dark suits, hushed whispers, and a palpable tension that wrapped around us. I stared at the crumpled paper tucked safely in my pocket, evidence that something bigger was at play, something I couldn't yet grasp, but I needed to find answers, and fast. When the chaos began to quiet, a sense of purpose ignited within me. I knew I had to break free from the suffocating walls of this hospital, not just to find Mr. Jansen but to confront the shadows that loomed ever closer. With Marissa still by my side, I felt the warmth of her resolve wash over me, urging me forward like a guiding beacon in the murkiness of uncertainty. Where do we even start? I breathed, the weight of the night pressing painfully against my chest. I could feel the weight of Mr. Jansen's vulnerability close by, and I couldn't let go. We need to find out who's behind all of this. James clearly has a role to play, and it's time we confront him. "We're not leaving this place without answers," Marissa replied with determination. The idea of confronting James sent chaos swirling in my gut. Just seeing him had brought back memories I had worked so hard to bury. But as memories of betrayal flickered like lanterns in the back of my mind, I found roots of resolve that anchored me to the present. As we moved through the crowded hospital corridors towards the lobby, I found strength in the fact that I was not alone. I was more than a mere observer in this unfolding story, I was a player in a grand, chaotic game. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the entrance. Voices began to raise while the hum of panic grazed the edges of my awareness like an approaching storm. I paused, heart racing, a sense of dread pooling in my stomach, the kind of dread that clawed its way up from the depths of chaos. Stand back. A security guard shouted as he barreled past. My heart sank. Were they protecting Mr. Jansen from more than just illness? Let me through. I yelled, weaving my way through the onlookers gathered in a tight crowd. The sight that greeted me stole the breath from my lungs. Mr. Jansen, being wheeled onto a stretcher, flanked by paramedics with grim determination on their faces. My heart raced anew, every fiber of my being drawn to him. Dynamar. Jansen. I cried out, running forward, but a guard stepped in front of me, blocking my path. The panic swirling in my chest intensified. You can't take him away, it's against doctor's orders, the guard replied firmly, but my instinct screamed loud, a visceral need to protect the vulnerable man I barely knew but felt so deeply intertwined with. Just as despair began to wash over me, I caught sight of his once vibrant blue eyes flickering open, the determination within them shining through even amidst the pain. Please, he rasped, drawing my attention like a lifeline. Find out the truth. Each word felt like an echo ricocheting in the hollow of my heart, infusing my resolve with fire. That I promise I will, Mr. Jansen, I replied fiercely, my voice holding steady even as the tempest raged within. I needed to know what secrets were veiled beneath layers of darkness. I knew I was the only one who could make a difference, and that was enough. Marissa had joined me, her hands resting on my shoulders, her voice steady. We need to get somewhere private. If they're coming for him, they may come after us next, she warned, urgency lacing her words. Let's head to the back entrance. Maybe we can slip out and catch James before he disappears again. Together, we moved with purpose, weaving through the hospital until we reached a quieter area, a small room that felt suffocating in its ordinariness. I pressed my back against the cool wall, drawing in a shaky breath. What do we know so far? I asked, framing our focus, desperation weaving through my voice. Marissa took a moment, gazing at me thoughtfully before unfolding the crumpled paper I'd grown so fond of. You told me this came from the boardroom. It must be significant if James is involved, she said, her brows furrowing in concentration. That I nodded, the weight of the document heavy in my hand. If this is the key, what is it unlocking? Something dangerous, I suspect. It's time to find James and confront him. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but the resolve within it shone with clarity. We might also need to leverage what we've found. If there's anything he can't afford to let out into the world, it may just be the key to understanding who put Mr. Jansen in this position. Just as we turned to leave, the door swung open, and we both jumped back in surprise. Standing before us was James, his dark presence drawing the room into an icy silence. You're getting ahead of yourselves, he said, the smile on his lips only widening to reveal a glimmer of menace. You think you know the truth? You have no idea. Then prove it, Marissa shot back, stepping forward with newfound bravery. Tell us what you're really after. My heart raced as I braced for his response, each heartbeat echoing against the weight of uncertainty. That I know what you found, he replied coolly, confidence gleaming in his eyes. But you don't realize the rabbit hole you're about to open. You shouldn't mess with forces you can't comprehend. There it was, the hint of hidden information, the taste of danger that danced there, concealed behind his bravado. Then why don't you reveal it to us? I countered, the fire of defiance surging like flames igniting my veins. What is it that binds you to Mr. Jansen? There came a moment of hesitation, a flicker of something else lighting in his eyes, a bare reflection of vulnerability. The world shifted weight in that instant. You really want to play this game? You think you can save him? His tone barely masked the disbelief. How naive. Maybe we are naive, Marissa countered, her stance resolute, but we know that truth, unlike your buried lies, has the power to illuminate everything. Suit yourselves, but just remember you might be digging your own graves, he muttered, his words laced thick with foreboding. He wasted no time retreating into the hall's shadows, and as he disappeared, I caught the flicker of doubt in my heart, intertwined with a strange sort of hope. Was that a warning or a challenge? I asked, turning towards Marissa, who shook her head, a mix of determination and uncertainty flickering beneath her eyes. Either way, we have to be prepared for anything, she replied. And we have to focus on finding Mr. Jansen. If he's still fighting, then so are we. Encouraged, I tightened my grip on the hidden paper. Then let's go, I said, and together we stepped back into the swirling chaos, ready to confront whatever twisted truths awaited us. For him. For each other. We navigated the hospital's winding corridors, lightning coursing through my veins with each step. Answers lurked beyond the shadows, and I could feel their presence encroaching. I was no longer an onlooker in a world I scarcely understood. I was a participant, a fighter in a game that pushed me to the brink of everything I had ever known. Do you think we can still reach him? Before they take him? I asked quietly, fear and determination threading together like a piece of delicate string about to snap. We can't back down now, Marissa replied firmly. We fight until the end. As the whispers of uncertainty danced on the air, hope flickered into existence. Mr. Jansen needed me to uncover the truths that loomed in shadows. With each determined step, I found clarity, a resonance of purpose I had never felt before. With the bond we'd forged, I knew in the deepest parts of my heart that no darkness could ever triumph over the light of truth, our truth, and through that undying belief, I could feel the weight of the world begin to shift, the prickle of awakening coursing through me as I prepared to face whatever challenges awaited us. I would not only uncover the cost of his survival but also redeem my own fragmented past. Racing down the corridor, propelled by a fierce resolve, I understood one undeniable truth. Sometimes the only way out of the shadows was to embrace their weight and fight back against the darkness we feared, for within that fight lay the very heart of who we are. And as the last threads of doubt faded into a fervent sunbeam of hope, I knew that together we would uncover the truth that could change everything. As we made our way through the chaos, I felt life surge within me, a resounding note echoing the electric promise of destiny. We would not only save Mr. Jansen, but we would emerge stronger on the other side. And as we prepared ourselves for the battle ahead, I made a vow that no matter the cost, I would see him through this, and together we would emerge from the shadows unbroken, fiercely illuminated by the truth.